Hard to believe it's been this long. But I still miss you so much. Happy birthday, baby. Having the backdrop of actually being in a real cemetery and having that sense of, you're not looking at a sound stage, but, we were actually out on location in the cemetery. I think emotionally it was much easier to kind of get to that space. And as actors, every actor has a process, and every actor has a different process. Finding the emotional tone, for that particular scene and for that particular exchange is, and I was told, it reminded me what I was told when I was in college as an acting student back in the conservatory program, that there are a lot of things right now that are not going to come clear to you, or you're not going to be in touch with, because you haven't had the life experience. I was 19 years old. Now I completely understand, because now you can because of my own personal experiences and dealing with my own, with death and with grief and all the things that I've experienced over the years in my adult life, it's much easier to tap into the emotional tone of a scene like that. So it's like I finished a scene like that, I go, that's what my acting teacher was talking about when I was 19. But it was it's always, it's a very comfortable scenario, especially when you've been working, it's so funny, I still think of myself as a newcomer to the show, only 16 years, because the show was so well established by the time I got there. But you have such a great relationship and such a rapport with everybody in front of and behind the camera, that when you get to do scenes like this, I think everybody, everybody circles the wagons, and they understand that it's these are delicate things, and that, but from the people in front of the camera and people from behind the camera, it was pretty seamless. And the actor who's playing my son, Jared, we had never worked together before. He was terrific, and just I'm really glad that he was cast in that role. Or he may not have gotten there at all. I think he held a lot of resentment toward the fact that his mom was killed violently, and he blamed that on NCIS. He blamed it on the work. His sister now is an NCIS agent. She had a near-death experience. She was kidnapped, and all the things that, so I think had it not been for that, and I think that's, it happens quite often in life, that you have family members or people who are very close who are estranged, and it's not until you realize that you could lose that person, that you're able to sort of put aside whatever your grievances are with each other, and realize that we're just lucky to have another day together, that I can say to you, how much I do love you and how much I miss being connected to you. So I hope that's what this episode kind of sheds light on. Yes. Many years from now, here's hoping that I can follow in the late David McCallum's footsteps, and in my 80s, still be a viable, part in a working actor. I tell people all the time, people don't realize. I'm sorry, I get a little off topic here, but this show is 22 years old, and David McCallum was 70 years old when the series began. So, and none of us are at that age yet. So, but I think in terms of the NCIS world, I think because of all the years that, McGee is one of the original members, and that McGee preceded Vance at NCIS. So he's seen his evolution, he's seen his growth, he's seen him be, as opposed to being sort of the, you know, the foil to, you know, to DiNozzo. He knows that there's a level of maturity that he possessed, and over the years he's grown. He's a husband, he's a father. He understands responsibility more. I think Vance sees a lot of himself in McGee. Family man, kids. So I think that's why he thinks that whenever that time comes, that McGee could be the one to fill that chair, because he understands what it means to be, you know, sort of the provider and how to, you know, sort of how to run a family. Paints the bigger picture for Jared that, you know, it's, you know what, because the scene starts, it's a flashback, and it's young Jared who has pilfered his dad's badge, you know, and he's looking at it under a microscope, and, you know, he's a kid and he's just curious, and, you know, and he doesn't really kind of understand the magnitude of it. And you know, it's funny now that we are talking about this, it's sort of full circle as what I said to you at the beginning of our conversation. When I was a kid, an acting student, and the things that were said to me that didn't resonate until much later in life, you know, now that I think about it, it's very similar to that. Is that Jared, you know, at his father's bedside at the end of the episode, it's been so long, he has to remind his dad, you did tell me. You did, you know, and I think he had to remind his dad of, you know, this conversation that they had, because it was so many years ago. But I think all the events in the episode, you know, him, you know, almost losing his dad, Vance and Jared realizing that, you know, they have each other, and that all, you know, there's no guarantee that tomorrow will be promised to both of you. So make the most of it. That, you know, that montage at the end, you know, I think really resonates, not only with the characters and with this particular episode, but I think it's a great reminder to the audience, people who've been following this show for so many years, that and Mark Harmon always said, he said, we will be successful. We will remain successful as long as the agency is the star of the show. As long as the star of the, as long as we really, you know, do the agency, you know, pay tribute to it. And whenever I meet people who are real NCIS, you know, present or retired, they always say how much they love this. You know, that to me that's the highest compliment, because the real NCIS agents always thank us for, you know, giving the show and doing it with such dignity and such respect. So that's you know, it's just a reminder, not only to the, you know, for the characters in the episode, but also to the viewers who've been following the show for 21 years. Really, what the NCIS and what these people really, you know, what drives them, what makes them do what they do. A friend of mine jokes, he said, you know, if you got $1 for every time your name is mentioned in the NCIS universe, you wouldn't need a salary. You know, the longevity is, like I said, it's very surreal when you say it out loud, when you think about the number of episodes and the number of years. But I think it's just a testament to the quality of what we've done. And, you know, and I've said this before, and at the risk of being redundant, for me, shows like NCIS, the procedurals, especially NCIS for me, when I first became aware of NCIS, you know, I had a bit of a head start as far as the star of the show, because Mark Harmon and I worked together on Chicago Hope. But when I was being considered to be brought in as a part of the cast, I started watching the show. I was binge watching before the term binge watching was popular. You know, I got a big box of DVDs, you know, saying, okay, here are the 4 seasons that you're not familiar with. Now get caught up on your work. And I remember watching the episodes, and I thought to myself, you know, these procedurals, and this procedural in particular, are very reminiscent of what Westerns meant to television in the 60s and the 70s. They represented a sort of simple justice, a main character, no matter how complex or how flawed that main character might be, was trying to adhere to some form of a moral compass, that he had an innate sense of right and wrong, and that this agency, all the characters who make up the agency NCIS, for all their quirks and all their eccentricities and the banter between the two of them, they represent a certain moral compass, sense of right and wrong, that there's good and there's evil. And that's what Westerns did so easily. Gunsmoke, Bonanza, Big Valley, and what people really still gravitate toward is, at the end of the hour, you always get the sense that good will outweigh, good will prevail. That whether it's Gibbs or whether it's Parker, whether it's McGee, whoever the characters are, that they're going to somehow find their moral compass again, and that compass will lead them to do what's right. And I think people respond to that because we all want to do that, regardless of religion, regardless of spirituality or whatever it is. There's this, I think, for most people, you have an innate sense of like, I'm trying my best to do right, and I think that's what these shows represent. You got the good guys, you got the bad guys. You kind of know who the good guys are. You get a sense of who the bad guys are, and at the end of this hour, or the end of maybe 2 episodes, hopefully those bad guys get brought to justice. And I think we need that. We still need that in the society to know that, sometimes we can't all articulate it, or we may not all agree on it, but there really is a sense of right and wrong, and to have a moral compass is okay. I think you're gonna see Vance. He's gonna be, it won't be the first time that my character has been banged up and back to work. But the good news is, before the end of the season, we get to see him. I don't spend the rest of the season in a hospital bed. As comfortable as it was to be able to go to work and lay flat on your back all day, they didn't give me too many more episodes of that. They were like, okay, that episode's done. Get back on your feet. I think our series finale is going to be really, really good. It'll be good to have Vance back in the office. I don't want to give away too much, but he's walking wounded, but he's back. I mean, this has been for a short season, for a 10-episode season. We've covered a lot of ground. We paid tribute to David McCallum. We dealt with the loss of Ducky. It feels like it's been a really big season, and it's only been 10 episodes. The finales, I'm always amazed at how every time you think that we can't top ourselves as far as the team getting in danger and getting in trouble, we seem to come up with something else. So once again, I can tell you that Vance this time will not be the subject of we won't be trying to save Vance from a burning building. So I'm not nearly in as much trouble in the season finale as I am in the 1000th episode. But there is a global threat, and the team is there is another character on the show that things don't go as planned, and we're not exactly sure how things are going to end for one of our characters. So I'm going to leave the audience guessing as to which one, but once again, the team has to circle the wagons and rally. Well, it's a lot of fun because I feel like, I always tell everybody, I said it's a home game. I always feel like, if you're in New York and you're playing the Yankee Stadium, you always have that sense of like I've got such a great support group because having played, like you said, having been a part of the show for 8 seasons before directing, I had a huge advantage as most directors. It's like I didn't have to brush up on the show. I knew it. I knew all the characters. I kind of knew how the pace, the feel, the style, the type, the humor, all the things that we try to infuse in that. And but it's always for me, it's like you learn a second language late in life. I was an actor. That's what I knew. I was a classically trained stage actor who learned the language of television, who learned the language of film, and now I'm learning the language of directing, and it's terrific because I'm able to bring everything that I know about as a stage actor, and it's the focus was always sort of on character development and story and really kind of understanding the tone of a scene and everything like that. So I'm feeling more and more comfortable each time I do it that I'm bringing a little bit more of my experience as an actor, and now I'm able to kind of use that language as a director. And the great thing about directing for me is, now that I've done over 20 episodes, each time I do an episode, there's always an aha moment. There's always a moment when I'm directing and say, something happens and I say, that's how that goes. That's how that works. The next time I direct, I'm going to take that approach because now I get it. So, and at this stage in your life, when you've been successful as an actor, and now you're learning, you're doing something different creatively, to still feel like, after all these years that you're learning something, and it's like, oh wow, that's how that works. I mean, that's the fun part for me. What I enjoy most is that Vance is an intricate part of he's part of the NCIS family, although he's still, the director and taskmaster, as it were. He's not the, adversarial. I think audiences don't look at him, with the same suspicion or disdain as they did initially. I think when we first created the character, especially there was so much tension between Vance and Gibbs, audiences were like, who is this guy? Is he, could he be a double agent? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? I think with all the experiences now that that we have put, that Vance has endured, and the bond that he established with Gibbs, that they were bonded, they both lost their wives tragically. All these things that we've humanized this character more, that he's not just this, this taskmaster and sort of antagonistic character. He really is a part of the NCIS family. And when we do episodes like this, where you see him in a vulnerable situation, near death, and how people rally around him, and that he's now, I feel like he's considered a part of the family. He's not the guy that everybody reports to.